You have to believe that you can do something, and a lot of times you can.
We Rad Dads, bringing a soft edge to a hard topic. Join us every week as we talk to real people with real stories, from the everyday single parent to family professionals, and find entertainment along the way. Join me, Walter J. Eggers, as I discover and share wisdom. Positive changes start here. Episode 33. Hello and welcome back again, Rad Dads. Walter Eggers, pumped as always. Pumped! I don't know why it is. This is not my radio announcer voice. This is me at my core, and I can't wait to share that with you every single chance I get. I would really hope, actually, I'm just going to go ahead and go all the way forward to where we're dreaming. Remember the whole bucket list question? I'm dreaming that I get to get us all together at some point, gather around and enjoy a toast to all of us. And I get to meet you personally. But right now, who I want you to meet is Jesse Foster. Jesse is the voice behind Father Nation podcast and works for Cardone Technologies. Holy cow. Yeah, Grant Cardone, Mr. 10X himself. All right. You know, it wasn't always this way. The easy life working for Grant Cardone. You don't just fall ass backwards into something like that. And Jesse's got a great story. It begins in Kazakstan and Kyurgstan. I can't even say it. It's a stan. It's over there. It's in Asia. It's an actual place. It's not in the United States. Yeah. No, started his podcast over there, tried to start a business over there. It's just amazing story of fatherhood, perseverance, and now works for Cardone Technologies. It is truly amazing what people are capable of, and I want you to hear everything that he's learned. He boils down the wisdom of all the dads that he's talked to, and he has a few words of advice of his own, and you need to hear it. So, without further ado, my interview with Jesse Foster. Hello and welcome back again, Rad Dads. I have yet another treat for you today. Today I have Jesse Foster of Father Nation. Jesse is a podcaster, a dad, and just an all-around guy. He's got this great history and he's got an amazing position now. Jesse, how you doing today?
Hey, Walter, doing good.
Awesome. So happy to have you. I'm a big fan of the podcast, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're talking with us today from Miami Beach, Florida, but you're originally from Colorado, and you've been as far as Kazakstan and tell me about all that, because that's just completely foreign to me.
Yeah, I guess you're referring to Kyrgyzstan. That was my first stop.
Yes.
But about 7 or 8 years ago, I decided to teach English overseas. So I went to a company out in Pasadena, California, got all my needed credentials, and then headed out to Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, which is a small little country that borders the west side of China, just north of Tajikistan, which is kind of near Afghanistan, that area, the whole Stan area, you know.
Wow. That's that just blows my mind. How I know that your wife is actually from that region of the world, correct?
Yeah, my wife is Kazakh.
Mm-hmm.
I met her after I moved to Kazakhstan a year later after I moved from Kyrgyzstan.
Wow, that's phenomenal. And you were actually doing your podcast from that area, is that right?
Yeah, I started Father Nation in December 2014 from Kazakhstan in the capital of Astana.
Wow. All right. It kind of floors me. I think of podcaster, and I have a certain kind of person in mind and location, but it's just really true that you can do it. Anyone can do it from anywhere, and that's I think what I love about it. And not only that, you can actually listen to it, consume it anywhere. So that's the beauty of podcasting.
It is the good thing about the internet.
Oh, absolutely. So what drew you to a podcast? This one specifically, Father Nation?
Well, I was listening to a few podcasts in 2014. That's when I started. And I enjoyed them because I was kind of a little bit isolated in Kazakhstan from a lot of English speakers. Uh-huh. And, I enjoyed listening to podcasts. Even I kind of had the idea, well, maybe I can actually do some podcasting because I'm not a big video guy. I don't really enjoy being in front of a camera. Mm-hmm. But I feel comfortable behind a mic if it's just audio. And so I thought, hey, maybe I can do a podcast. And I had a young boy at the time, and my wife was pregnant. And so I thought, well, I'm a dad. That's a big role in my life, and I'd like to learn how to be a better dad myself. Maybe I can do a dad podcast.
And here we are, Father Nation, with what do you got, like 150 episodes? You've got a ton of material.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the actual number. I haven't counted, but I know it's over 100. So yeah, it's quite a few. If you want to check them out at fathernation.com, a lot of back episodes you can listen to on your commute. I just talk about being a better dad. I interview guys just about their personal experiences as dads.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of high level guys in there. It sounds like you talked to Ryan Mickler was one of my guests as well, and a couple other guys that I actually learned a lot listening to these other folks through your podcast. So it was just like this great crossover.
Yeah, I've had a lot of dads on, so a lot of variety, everything from Ted DiBiase, who's a former WWF wrestler, to Jeff Kinney, who's the author of The Diary of Wimpy Kids. But lots of dads. When you get over 100, I guess
yeah,
a lot to choose from.
No, absolutely. That's great. So currently you work for Cardone Training Technologies, as in the Grant Cardone. Now, this is something that floored me. I know we were talking about this earlier, but that sounds like a really amazing position. And we were telling me about how that all kind of came to fruition.
Yeah, well, I was, in Kazakhstan, as I was saying a couple of years ago, and this was actually kind of a long story. I can lay it out though. Originally I was overseas teaching English, and I decided to start my own business in Kazakhstan. And so I got the idea to start a rose printing business, where there's this company in Salt Lake City called Speaking Roses that sells this machine where I can actually print on a rose. So for example, I can go on a rose and print, I love you or something on a rose petal.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so it's kind of like a franchise. I bought into it and got the material sent to Kazakhstan. And I started this business in Kazakhstan. And it was more difficult than I imagined. Mm-hmm. And
it sounds pretty difficult to start with, but even more so when you throw the business element in Kazakhstan.
You're right. I mean, I speak a little bit of Kazakh, a little bit of Russian, but I wasn't fluent.
You're right.
And I had my wife. I had a friend that helped, but financially speaking, things got pretty tough, and we had to move in with my mother-in-law out there because financially I was I went through all my savings, and it got to the point where I was like, well, this isn't working. I'm going to go bankrupt here. I need to start teaching English again, I guess. But financially, I was kind of in a bad place.
Yeah.
And then what made matters worse was I couldn't get my wife back to the U.S. right away because she's not a U.S. citizen. And the immigration process was extremely long and bureaucratic. Mm-hmm. And so basically, I could not move right away to get a different job. And so that was a very difficult time for us. And that's when I found Grant Cardone's materials online. He has a lot of YouTube videos. If you just Google Grant Cardone, he talks a lot about entrepreneurs and business and finance stuff. And so I found his videos, started consuming them, and they made a lot of sense to me. And so I thought, you know what, I'll try and work for this guy in the future. It might be a good thing. So that's kind of how it started, where I got in a bad financial place, and then read his material and decided maybe I want to go work for the guy.
Yeah. No, that's great. Wow. And here you are working this dream job basically that you wanted. So congratulations on that. I can't imagine that was anything short of a very astronomical effort.
Yeah, it took a lot of work, but that's kind of one of what Grant teaches, is that you have to have goals and big goals, and then just go after them, and take initiative and make things happen.
Yeah, I like it. I can identify completely with that, as a matter of fact. All right, great. Well, I love getting the backstory on people. In fact, I want to know a little bit more about you personally. So can you tell us about something in your past, your formative years where you're growing up, coming of age kind of thing, and you were involved in some sort of cultural phenomenon, fashion or following. What is it that you look back and you can see yourself doing and kind of cringe a little bit? What is that?
Well, back in the early 90s, if you watch basketball, like the University of Michigan, they were kind of the first guys to wear the really long basketball shorts. Uh-huh. And, everyone today still wears actually the, knee-length basketball shorts, because if you go back to the 80s, it was all the, short shorts almost.
Yeah.
And after the long kind of basketball shorts, around that time, a lot of kids started kind of sagging.
Yeah.
And I was around the age where I thought it was kind of cool just to sag a little, So,
yeah. Yeah, to let your butt hang out above your pants.
So I wasn't, a huge sagger.
Right. Yeah.
I would sag sometimes.
I remember sagging. I don't even think they even call it that anymore. It's so funny. What about humor? I know when I get into kind of the pits, when I need something to pick me up, I always usually go to a pop culture thing, like a movie or a TV show or, something that kind of always cheers me up. But do you have some sort of stupid movie or something hilarious, that you just love for some inexplicable reason?
Yeah. I mean, with movies, I like to keep things light because there's enough drama in real life.
Yeah.
I always like kind of really stupid movies like Naked Gun with Leslie Nielsen or maybe even like, Ace Ventura's type stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Ace Ventura is definitely one of my favorites. And Leslie Nielsen was perfect with slapstick comedy. The Naked Gun series was just over and above. I remember, I think O.J. Simpson was in that, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
That's crazy. That's how long ago that was.
Right.
Awesome. So you're a dad now. Can you tell us a brief story about your childhood where you may have given your parents gray hairs? Tell us what that story was and how did you find yourself in that situation?
Yeah, I remember a time when I was probably 5 or 6 maybe. Yeah. And I was out with one of my friends and we kind of have this house that was kind of near this, what seemed like a really big valley at the time. But, when I went back when I was older, it was just a small little place. But It seemed like a big valley to me at the time. And we were out playing and my mom came out and was calling, Jesse, it's dinner time. And my friend said, no, don't go. So I just kind of stayed hidden there, like under some bushes or some trees or something. It didn't come. So I stayed out, for a while that night, not like, till 1 or 2 a.m., but just like, I should have come when she called. I didn't come. They couldn't find me for a while. So I'm sure I worried her to death that night.
Yeah. Could you imagine if your child did that to you? I know I would just be freaking out.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I thought I'd bring it up today. Just I was like, I remember doing that, and that would have been bad if it happened to me as a parent. So.
Oh yeah. Talk about heart attack. Oh my goodness. All right, cool. Well, how about this? Can you tell us something about you that maybe nobody knows? Very few people know.
Well, not many people know, but I was born with my bladder on the outside.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting fun fact right there.
Yeah.
I hope they've secured it since.
They have. I was lucky enough to get it all back inside normal. Because I was a baby, so I don't remember anything of it.
Of course.
But they have some good surgeons up in Johns Hopkins. And I was lucky to, I guess, be an American at the time where they have good medical care and know how to put a bladder back in, right?
Yeah, that's crazy. I assume that happens to 1 in every X million babies at some point.
Yeah, I think it's like 1 in 250K or something like that. It might be higher.
Huh. Wow. Yeah, that's an interesting fun fact indeed. Well, right on. So, okay. I'm going to jump into the words of motivation, something that I kind of really resonates with me. It's a quote from Charles Schwindel. It says, "Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it." How does that resonate with you?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's 10% what happens to you or what percentage it is, but I know for sure that life brings you a lot and you have to react to it. I also know though that you can kind of control a lot what happens to you too.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times we can't control what happens. Like for example, I can't control if my bladder's born on the outside, right?
Right.
But for example, if I'm working right now with Grant Cardone, I controlled that in the sense that I pursued that. And so that's what happened to me. I caused that. So, what percentage is life caused by you and what percentage is reaction? I don't know. I think actually a lot of it is what is caused by you and why some of it is reaction. But as far as what percentage it is, I can't say.
It makes sense. It makes sense. Hey, Rad Dads, I want to take a very quick moment and let you know that I have a free 7-step guide for the newly single parent over on our website at www.weraddads.com. Capitalize on the wisdom that I've gained through this podcast and my own personal experiences. Go on over to any one of our show notes or other pages. This offer will pop up automatically. All you need to do is enter your name and email address, and this guide will be delivered directly to your email inbox. Go over there right now, today. Get your free 7-step guide now. Yours, absolutely free. So the reason we're here today is to figure out what makes Jesse Foster, Jesse Foster. So tell us about a story in your life that's a real formative thing. We're talking about, when life happens to you and how you react. I mean, it sounds like you kind of covered it a little bit earlier, but tell us about something where you turned a insurmountable or terrible situation into a win.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking back to when I was in Kazakhstan and with my business, my rose printing business. I kind of mentioned this earlier, but it was pretty bad because I had a baby, I had a pregnant wife, and I felt like I got myself in a situation where I was living on the charity of my mother-in-law because I wasn't making enough money.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a pretty low point. I mean, if you can't provide for your family, it doesn't feel very good.
Oh, as a man, nothing challenges me more. Oh, yeah, I know exactly.
I got pretty angry at myself. Maybe I didn't show it that much. I felt frustrated inside, but it wasn't anger at the world or at the economy or whatever. It was more anger at some of the choices I made and maybe some of the risks I took and the assumptions I made, thinking, I'll start this business and it'll be great, and kind of putting my family at risk. It made me angry at myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I needed to change something, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, we're all there. I've been in that place a couple of times, to be honest with you. And, that's the walk of life we were talking about earlier. Life just throws things at you and you make the best decision you can where you're at. And then maybe sometimes that is a good decision, but maybe it's not. It takes time to kind of figure that out.
Yeah. Through that process, when I thought, we'll just move back to the States. Things will be fine. But then when I realized that my wife wouldn't be able to get a visa for over, a year and a half, I realized I'd either have to move back, kind of be away from my wife and kid for a year, or live off a charity of my mother-in-law.
Yeah. So in that circumstance, which did you choose? Because I can't imagine either was a good choice or an easy choice.
No, it wasn't. But it was, I thought the worst thing I could do would be to move away. Because it's not like I'd be in the next city. I would be across the world.
Yeah. And
I couldn't see myself moving away from my son, who was 2 at the time. I know with internet, you have Skype and stuff nowadays.
Yeah.
But still, it's not, I couldn't imagine myself kind of, breaking up from a family for over a year. I know people do that, in the military and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
They make sacrifices. But I know that I had a choice. I could stay in Kazakhstan and kind of push through it. So that's what I did.
That's great. Do you think that choice to take, I think they were both hard roads, but that particular choice to kind of try and make it work in Kazakhstan gave you some certain tools that allowed you to kind of proliferate later on?
Yeah, because that's when I started, consuming some stuff on YouTube, like I mentioned earlier with Grant Cardone. Kind of like, I don't know if it's an aha moment or not, but just realizing that I need to plan better and actually work harder. Because I was looking back at my rose printing business, and I realized later on that I didn't work as hard as I could have. I'd quit work. I'd go out, try and sell some stuff, get frustrated, and stop. At 4 p.m. when I could have kept going until dark.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing like hindsight to tell you about all your follies, man. I don't know what it is about me, but I've got this big rear view mirror, and I think part of it's a good and a bad thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just on my own here, but hear me out. Is that rear view mirror allows you to kind of see where you were and maybe what you could have done. And it kind of gives you the tools to, when you get into your next obstacle, decide, okay, how much do I need to put into this? How far can I take this? Am I going hard enough? That's kind of the way I see it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. So you made it work in Kazakhstan. You got your paperwork through for your wife. And how did that story? How did you find yourself to Miami, Florida at this point?
Yeah, well, I basically, wrote some stuff for Grant Cardone, and he decided to hire me on. So it's basically I initiated things because there wasn't a job posting or anything. That's kind of what he teaches as far as when you're unemployed, you have to just pick some people that you would want to work for and try and get in front of them. Mm-hmm. And not just depend on Monster or Craigslist or whatever, and definitely not depend on a resume. I knew Grant was a guy that he didn't really care about my past. He just cared about what I can do for him today. Because of his YouTube videos, I knew that. And so I was able to kind of take charge in that area and make something happen.
That's pretty profound. It's funny. I've been looking around and stuff like that, and I have a limiting belief personally about my resume and about my work history and that sort of thing. So it's really refreshing to hear you talk about that. And here Mr. Cardone that's basically, he doesn't care about any other stuff. He's just want to know where you are today, what you've learned along the way, and which way you're headed. That's pretty phenomenal. Yeah,
I wish the world sometimes would be more like that, because I think too often people depend on, oh, well, what did you do? This, when did you do that? Where did you go to school? And a lot of that I don't think is that important. I mean, I went to school, I got a philosophy degree, I even got a master's, but it doesn't mean I can do a job. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of, it looks good. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Right.
But I have a friend who got out of prison recently. It's difficult for him to get any work except for, a food server. And, that's kind of too bad, because people only look at, oh, he's a felon. Sorry, we don't hire here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of the common rubric. I think, so I think society by and large, we bought into that sort of thing, and these limiting beliefs. I know I've told myself, like, I can't get this X job because I don't have A, any experience in it, or B, my resume doesn't include X, Y, and Z skills. And, I may be right to a certain degree, but there's no reason you shouldn't completely limit yourself. You might hear a no, but you'll never know for certain. Maybe that answer is a yes. You just got to put yourself out there and actually go for it.
Right. And a big part of it is if you believe you can, a lot of times you can. Maybe, if I believe I can fly, that doesn't mean I can fly.
Right.
But, you have to believe that you can do something, and a lot of times you can.
I like it. I truly believe, and there's let's just not gloss over the hard work aspect, because you do have to knuckle down and get some work done.
Oh yeah. I mean, a lot of what, Grant Cardone talks about is that you can hustle a lot, but it's actually not all about hustle. You have to have skills also. And it takes hard work to get skills. You have to research, you have to study, you have to do some things, so if you want a certain job, if you want to change careers, you have to put in the work necessary to actually be worthy of being hired in that job or field that you want to be in. And that takes work.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, myself included, and there's probably a lot of rad dads out there listening where, they may not be happy with the position they have right now. It's not what they had envisioned for their present or their future. And, it's probably, I don't know, it's refreshing for me only. And I hope everybody else gets some benefit here to hear that, you can make that change. Just because, you're comfortable where you're at doesn't mean that you're not capable of taking on more and going that direction. That's awesome. So as far as Grant Cardone is concerned, was there one book in particular that really just kind of spoke to you?
Yeah, I think the 10X rule. You can easily find that on Amazon or Audible or wherever you buy books. But the 10X rule is a lot about business, but it really can be applied to any area of your life. It doesn't have to be about business. And basically, the word 10X, you think about 10 times, right?
Uh-huh.
And so the concept is, if you want anything, you need to do 10 times more than you think you need in order to get that thing. And so a lot of businesses plan, we need 10 customers to make a profit or whatever.
Yeah.
No, you need to times that by 10. You need to go for 100 as your goal, because the real world is a lot harder, and the hill is a lot steeper than you think it is. And so a lot of people fail because their goals or their plans actually don't take into account all the things that are going to go against you. And so he talks about 4 levels of action in that book that everyone can take. And the first level is you actually do nothing. The second level is you can actually retreat, where you go backwards. The third level is you kind of take normal amounts of action. And the fourth level is massive action. And that most people operate in the normal realm. Like, we just take normal amounts of action. We go to work 9 to 5. That's normal. If you're doing nothing, obviously you're just doing nothing, right?
Right.
And if you retreat, that's actually where you get married, and something happens and you get divorced, and you say, marriage sucks, I'll never date again. That's kind of like a retreat.
Gotcha.
You back away. And then massive is when you really go all in and actually 10x it. And 10xing is kind of the only way to really succeed in something. It could be business, your career, but it could be like your health. For example, if you want to 10x your health, you really need to really start exercising and eating right. You can't just be quote unquote normal. So it applies to different areas. The concept of 10x. Interesting.
Yeah, no, I like that. And you mentioned Audible. Rad Dads listening out there, I have a link for the We Rad Dads. It's audibletrial.com/WeRadDads. You get a free book when you use that link, and 10X could be your book. So go over to audibletrial.com/WeRadDads to get that. And if that's too much, go over to the show notes for Jesse Foster, and it'll be any of the Audible banners. Plus, we'll have a link for Amazon if you like a physical book like I do. So, Jesse, thank you for sharing with us. That is, it's kind of basically what I needed to hear right now, and I hope that it resonates with other people as well. I'm ready to do some 10xing personally.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, no, it sounds like exactly what I needed right now. It's funny how the universe kind of puts things right in your lap, only right when you need them, and when you need them fairly bad as well. But you got to keep trying. You got to keep looking. You can't just retreat, as you mentioned earlier in the 4 levels, into the man cave, get back in the cave, the safe spot, because you're never ever going to progress forward. You're never ever going to get out of whatever it is you're in. Mindset, poor job, poor atmosphere, poor relationships, whatever it is. So yeah, why not? What do you have to lose? Honestly.
Exactly.
Awesome. Great. So everyone has their favorite age for kids. Do you have a favorite age?
I like the age my daughter's at right now. She's about 19 months. Uh-huh. It's a pretty cute stage, I think.
Yeah. Why is that? Why is 19 months your thing?
She's just starting to talk a little bit. She can walk around pretty well. but she's still kind of like a baby and very cute.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I like a lot of the different ages I've had with my kids so far, but she's at a pretty good stage right now, I think.
That's cool. Yeah. I don't know. That favorite age seems to just change every day. It's always where my son's at. I know that's
right.
It's super fun all the way through, once
a couple years from now it might be different.
Yeah, so. Exactly. And that's a great thing. It's always kind of evolving with you as a dad. So speaking of dad, what's your best dad superpower or skill? What are you awesome at?
I'm pretty good at maybe telling stories at bedtime. I can, make them up on the cusp. How do you say that?
I think it's cuff.
On the cuff pretty well. Each night from my son, he likes to listen in bed as I tell a story, and oftentimes I don't read from little books. I do sometimes, but I like to just tell him stories. So
just kind of make them up as you go along.
Yeah, right now he's into Winnie the Pooh, and so I'll just make up Winnie the Pooh stories.
That's cool. That's a great little bonding exercise every night, huh?
Pretty much.
Nice. So you got a good dad superpower. What's your worst, and how do you mitigate that?
Man, my worst is probably sometimes with my level of patience when they're disobedient. If my son, for example, is not listening to me, it's difficult for me to not become overly frustrated and have it show. I would say, the whole topic of punishment and discipline is pretty difficult for me to actually put into practice. I understand a lot of theory pretty well, but actually doing it is another thing, right? You can understand something intellectually, but actually to do it is differently.
Totally agree, especially when it comes to that sort of thing. I'm tied up with, hey, is this gonna, not scar, but is this gonna perpetuate a negative result? Is this gonna, is this the right course of action? Am I gonna turn around tomorrow or in a week and go, God, that was an idiot move? It's very difficult. And I think, here we are again, just like life choices. But as a parent, I think it's really important to just do the absolute best you can and continue to learn everything you can about being a dad and where your kids are at.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, of course, course correct along the way. So, okay, that didn't work last time, so we're going to try another route. And I just like the age question. I think it's gonna evolve no matter what age your children are.
Yeah, I had one theory that, being a dad is kind of juggling three different roles, and I kind of tried to define those as one being a trainer, where we kind of try and coach our kids, one being a buddy, where we want to be their friend or kind of connect with them.
Yeah.
And one being like a king, so to speak. We're kind of, I don't know if rule is the right word, but we have to try and have some sort of authority in their life. And so kind of the king, the buddy, and the trainer, I feel like I'm kind of juggling those three different roles, and each of those roles look very different. And for me, I think perhaps the king role, if you want to call it the king, because some dads have issues with that, but the king role for me is probably the most difficult because of the whole concept of trying to get obedience and balancing punishment and discipline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone wrestles with that, for some degree. This trifecta of persona that you're talking about, I've heard you talk about this in your podcast. This is something that you sounds like you came up with kind of along the way, talking to different people. Yeah.
I mean, I after, I don't know when exactly I came up with it with the interviews, but over time I tried to define the roles of the dad into maybe as short of a way as possible. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I came up with. And, a couple of dads gave me some pretty good feedback about, maybe a dad's not a king necessarily. And I could see their points to that, but I still think there's some aspect of authority. I'm not sure if a policeman would be a better picture. But It's mostly the concept of positive parenting, if you're familiar with that, as far as um, some have issue with the idea of being a king as a dad.
Well, I think the modern patriarch needs a little help. I mean, in my personal opinion, I think the role of the authoritarian dad is, man, it's such a fine line, you know. There's a lot of science behind what and what not to do as the leader dad, and then it's just this constantly evolving process. And now we've got, which is fine, we've got women in the workforce, so we got stay-at-home dads, and it kind of, the roles are they're just different everywhere. And I think you just got to find whatever recipe that ends up working for you and your family. I think that's the biggest takeaway here. So if that's a king, that's fine. If you're not that role, if you share that role with your wife, or you just got to figure it out for your personal situation.
Yeah, and you know, one of my favorite podcasts that I have done is with a guy named Scott Keith, and he talked about the role of grace as a father, because when you have discipline or punishment, there's also grace. And he's a pastor out in California, and he kind of gives a story of, in the Bible, the prodigal son, where Jesus gives this parable of a dad having a son, and the son leaves and kind of says, "I want my inheritance," and so he gets his inheritance early and goes and blows it all. And then he later comes back and just says, you know, "Dad, I want to take me back. I'll be a servant." But his dad actually gives him grace and says, "No, you're still my son." And he kills a fattened calf. I think the story's in Luke 12 or 15, something like that. And the story basically is a picture of God as a gracious father, but that the moral is also, as dads, we need to be gracious to our kids. And you know, when do we punish and when do we be graceful? That could be a challenge.
Yeah, I think that's a really big challenge, actually. And
so you don't want to be we don't want to be lawless and just have anything go and always just say, you know, here's some grace. But at the same time, we do want to show some grace sometimes, and don't want to be too much of a stickler, and too lawful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I don't have it all figured out as far as where that balance goes, but I know there needs to be a balance between authority and grace.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, it'd be nice if we had a little handbook or something, you know, but that's what the podcast is all about. I mean, it's trying to figure out those lines and what works for you and what, you know, the different tactics are. So that's exactly why we're here. That's right. If you know of somebody who could benefit from what we talk about, please share it with them. Text forward, tell them about it, email it, Facebook. And while we're talking about Facebook, be sure to join our group. We'd love to have you. I'm building a community, a tribe, a brotherhood of people united in similar struggle. And let's face it, we need all the help we can get as dads. If you enjoyed our podcast, I would really appreciate if you would leave a rating and review. Now, I've made it as easy as possible. Just go to our show notes and click on the Leave a Rating Review link. Or you could just go to iTunes and leave a rating and review there. Either one will take you to the same spot. Please let me know how I'm doing. Now, this helps us reach other rad dads out there. So with this simple step, you're helping introduce me to other people who need to hear our content. So, okay, could you name a cornerstone trait that's really important to instill in your children?
Trait? You know, for me, I'm a Christian, and I want to install in my kids, you know, faith in God. And, you know, with that comes a lot of stuff as far as different character traits, such as, you know, honesty and love and stuff like that. But yeah. I think I would my first priority would be faith.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. How about this? Let's dream for a little bit. Let's what's your bucket list item for yourself and your children or your family? What's something like this 10x goal, to keep it on par? What's this 10x goal for your family where, this one particular event or item? Do you have that?
Yeah, I was thinking about this for a while. Not today, but like when over the past year or two, like, what do I want to do with my kids as they grow up? Because I was reading this blog about how we only have like 936 weeks until they're 18 years old.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, we only have 936 weeks. Wow. And, and so I was thinking about different trips I want to take and stuff like that, like, Grand Canyon or, Disney World, blah, blah, blah. And I know that, with my wife being Kazakh, we'd want to take them to Asia, stuff like that. And is it all about travel? I mean, I don't know. I like to have them travel some.
Yeah.
But is there one particular place? And not particularly. I mean, I want to have them see a lot of different places. But as far as one bucket list thing to do, maybe I should make one. I haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah. Well, you're not alone. I've got a 2 or 3 myself. So, so for me, I'm just going to throw this one out here. I would really like to trek either the Pacific Crest Trail with my son or do like a backpack trip through Europe. I think that is it'd be such a great experience to share with him. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's kind of between those two.
Is the Pacific Crest Trail, that is in Oregon and California?
Yeah, it runs basically between Canada and Mexico. It goes through California, Oregon, and Washington.
Kind of along the coast there?
No, not actually. It's inland. So you go, it's all mountains. But something that I live close to now, and I've done a couple segments of, and me personally, I'm a hiker. I'm an outdoors guy. I love that stuff, pitting myself against nature. So it's more or less in our backyard, and I just really love to be able to conquer that, or at least sections of it with him.
Well, since you mentioned that, one thing I just thought of, I think would be pretty cool to do would be kind of a long, slow trip along Highway 1, California, maybe go up from Malibu, kind of up through the central coast of Big Sur,
to
Monterey, and then up the Oregon coast, hit the redwoods, do some biking. That would be a pretty good trip. Yeah,
no, that now you're dreaming. I like it. I'm on par with that. That's just an amazing area, Rad Dads. If you're listening and this sounds pretty amazing, I'll guarantee you it is. I've traveled most of that by car, and you can't do it enough. It's just phenomenal. So well chosen, my friend. Well chosen. Awesome. So okay, well, yeah.
Second one, real quick. I just thought I'd go to Hawaii, maybe even Nepali coast.
Nepali coast. Awesome. A vacation, or what do you do there? What are we doing?
Well, I hiked there when I was a teenager.
Uh-huh.
So I'd like to take my son there sometime, and my daughter in the future when they're older, though.
Nice. Well, how about this? Do you have a significant piece of advice, or maybe a couple of pieces of advice for the Rad Dads listening now? I mean, all your interviews and everything that you've kind of been a part of so far, what's the big takeaway here?
The big takeaway?
Yeah, as far as being a dad goes.
Man, it's hard to pick just one takeaway, because being a dad is so many different areas. But
yeah.
For me, for all the interviews that I've done, if I could probably summarize one thing, it would be that as dads, we have to take care of ourselves. I mean, as dads, we take care of others, obviously, but we still have to take care of ourselves, and that means we have to take care of our health, trying to eat right, exercise, get enough sleep, and have a little bit of time for ourselves to maybe grow, maybe if we want to read or relax. And a common theme that came up over and over and over again in the interviews was that if you become a better you become a better dad. And if you're always serving others or too busy, it's hard to become a better you. You get drained. You become more and more drained. And so you need time to refresh yourself and to try and improve yourself, whether that be study something or read something, watch something, relax. there's so many different things you can pursue in life.
Yeah.
To take the time to pursue something that you want to pursue, that maybe gets you excited, that kind of energizes you. That's important to do as a dad, because when you're growing, you're not being stagnant, and that, when you grow, and you can pass it on to your kids.
I love it. I think that that's really important, and not enough people do that, and myself included. We're so fixed on the daily grind. We're so fixed on being there for everyone, including our kids, that, man, I found myself exhausted so many times where I says, hey, I just need a break, or hey, I just need, if I forget to eat half the time. And so I think that's really sound advice, actually. Awesome.
Yeah, it can be hard to follow sometimes, but yeah, we need to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, totally. Well, Jesse, I really appreciate you joining us today. Is there anything that you'd like to promote or talk about, or maybe talk about something that I forgot to ask you?
Well, if any dad out there is interested in kind of a short e-course on fatherhood, I've got a few courses out there at dadlearn.com, where each course, there's 3 of them, and each course would take you about an hour to get through, probably a little longer. But you'd probably want to do like one segment a day or one segment every other day. So it might take you a couple weeks to get through. But they're kind of like basically dad e-courses that help you be a better dad, make you think. And it's on video. It's kind of my best material from Father Nation that I've prepackaged into an online course. So again, it's dadlearn.com.
There it is, dadlearn.com. Resources, Rad Dad's resources. And this sounds like something that is highly valuable, just taken from all these different dads, condensed down, and then presented in a video module or modules.
Yeah, exactly. Because if there's so many interviews on Father Nation right now, it would take you a long, long time to listen to all those podcasts.
Yeah.
So if you want to just get the best of it, go to dadlearn.com, and it's all there for you.
Boom. There it is, Rad Dads. Wow. So, Jesse, thank you so much for joining me here today and bestowing upon us your, all your conglomerate wisdom from all the different dads there. So, we'll definitely head on over to dadlearn.com. I'll have a link in the show notes, and I'll have links to everything that we talked about here today in the show notes. That'll be www.weraddads.com/Jesse Foster. Jesse, thanks again for joining us today.
Hey, Walter, thanks for having me.
Awesome. And I'm sure we'll be in touch soon. I'm looking forward to the Dadly Rally, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that. That's scheduled, actually. It was scheduled for September, but there's been some changes. And look for that in March of 2017. It's going to be in the Los Angeles area. But it's going to be rebranded here as Parents Are We and Dads Are We.
There it is.
That'll be to come.
Awesome. Yeah. And we'll touch bases with Hogan Hilling, who's kind of the spearhead behind that too, and how we are connected as well. So, great. Thanks a lot, Jesse. And, thanks for joining us. I appreciate your time.
Take care, Walter.
Wow, it's always a good time connecting with other podcasters and other dads especially. I'm a little biased when it comes to the podcast thing, right? That's okay though. All walks of life, dads around there, this is why I do it, is for you. And Jesse's the same way. He has got so much wisdom, and it's amazing that this influence from Grant Cardone's videos and books was able to garner the result that he's living today. It is truly amazing. And you and I are both capable of doing the exact same thing. It's funny. Stick around for a little clip, and there's a little bit of confusion when it comes to our audio. You would think, as podcasters, both of us, by the way, that we've got this thing dialed. A lot like parenting. Nope. We figure it out along the way. And the more we do it, the more we push ourselves out of the comfort zone, and the higher we set our sights, the better we get. But I'll tell you what, we fail forward every step of the way. Rad Dads out there, I'm loving the interaction in the community. Let's keep that up, all right? Hey, get out there and tell a friend. Tell somebody who you think might enjoy our program. You know, it's not all doom and gloom. There is a silver lining on that dark cloud above you now. You just got to get out there and find it. And I think a lot of you are. I'm really seeing a kind of flourishing of our group, our conversations. Head over there to the Facebook group. That's what I'm talking about here. And get so much more than just our podcast. I do weekly videos. I do discussions. There's a lot of interactive stuff. And get out there and meet these dads. Build your tribe. Build the right people in your corner. And you can't go wrong. Guys, you're kicking butt out there. I can see it every single day. And I know you're doing your best. Just keep your best foot forward and make your tomorrows better than your yesterdays. Stay up, stay connected, and stay rad, dads. Have a great week. In fact, no, don't have a great week. Make a great week for yourself. You're completely in charge here. You can do it. I know you can do it. And I want to see the result of it. So make yourself a great week. All right? And then tell us about it over at the group page. All right. Talk to you soon. Well, that's it for this episode of We Rad Dads. I sincerely thank you for joining us. Don't forget to look us up at www.weraddads.com. There you can find links to our Facebook page and Twitter account. Got a question or comment? It may be featured. Email me, Walter, at weraddads.com. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks again for joining us. And remember, stay up, stay connected, and stay rad, dads.
One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. That's a little more normal.
Yeah, the level's normal. Again, with the reverb, though.
Reverb, yeah. Okay.
Or I guess the amp hum. Reverb is more of an echo.
1, 2, 3.
Whoa.
Still?
Whoa. You know, turn it. Whatever you did, don't do that. Yeah, it was like crazy echo.
Crazy echo?
Yeah.
What about other side? Hold on a sec here. That didn't sound good.
Nope.